Hello, welcome to the review of Biology in Healthcare, Stage 4, Control, Regulation and Continuity of Life. In this stage, we will learn about nervous, endocrine, and reproductive system, their structure, function, and some diseases that can affect them. I recommend you to have your book and your notebook with you to take some notes. Let's start. The nervous system is the control center which receives and processes data from the different organs to achieve a response for the body. It is responsible for complex and diverse functions such as emotions, language, creativity, or intelligence. Thanks to it, we can carry out actions such as walk, talk, or imagine. It is made up of two structures, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Now, we are going to talk about the central nervous structure, which is divided into two parts, the brain and the spinal cord. They receive information but also decide how to respond to it. So, this is their main function. The nervous central system has two distinct phases, gray substance and gray matter. The gray substance has a darker appearance. This area contains a large number of neuronal bodies and a few myelinated fibers. On the other hand, white matter is only formed by myelinated fibers, which give it to it its characteristic white color. Anatomically, the brain is divided into lobes, which are frontal, voluntary motor activity and cognitive functions. Parietal is related to functions like calculation and sensitivity of the skin. Temporal, its most typical function is the memory. Occipital, its function is to interpret everything that we see. Insular, sense of pain and emotional functions. Let's talk about central nervous system cells. If we could see a neuron close, we will see that it is composed by a cellular body, axon terminal, and dendrite. Their function is to receive information from other neurons. Do you know that neurons can be classified according to their function and to their extension? According to their function, they are divided into sensory, motor, and interneurons, and according to their extension are divided in unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Sensory neurons. They are in charge of taking information from outside the organism towards the central nervous system. Motor neurons. They are responsible for activating voluntary muscles. Interneurons are cells that connect and communicate only with other cells. Also, they integrate the information received by the nervous system. For this reason, we can carry out activities like move or think. Most neurons have glial cells, which have a very important role, and are divided into several subtypes: astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, ependymal cells, microglial cells, and Schwann cells. Communication between neurons is called synapses. There are two types: chemical, which is mediated by a substance that is released by a neuron and captured by other. And the other type is electrical, which implies a direct communication between the neurons. Let's talk about peripheral nervous system. It is divided into two structures: somatic nervous system, which function is control the voluntary action of the muscle, such as walk or lift an object. The other structure is the autonomic nervous system, which is in charge of the involuntary functions such as breathe, heartbeat, or digestion, but its main function is to connect with the central nervous system. Diseases. Alzheimer's is the most frequent cause of dementia worldwide. It can occur in individuals older than 65 years. It's characterized by the progressive loss of memory. Epilepsy is one of the most frequent diseases. It's characterized by the presence of several types of crises. Parkinson's. The presence of three main characteristics determine this disease: tremor in the extremities, limitation of mobility, and slowness in general movements. For many of the neurological diseases, even those which we mentioned before, the main risk factor is genetic predisposition. In other cases, diseases depend more on environmental effects, such as traumatic brain injury, the most frequent cause of which are car accidents. Some preventive measures are to maintain continuous and regular mental activity, adopt adequate sleep, eating, and exercise habits. Endocrine system is made of groups of cells that form glands that secrete hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers which are transported in the blood to regulate the function of the organs to achieve chemical equilibrium, reproduction, and development. Glands of the endocrine system. Hypothalamus. It has a nervous function, thirst and hunger for example, and an endocrine function that coordinates the hormonal function. Pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus and is divided into lobes, adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis. This gland is a stimulant for the following hormones: somatropin, cellular growth; prolactin stimulate the growth of mammary glands and milk secretion; follicle stimulant stimulates the secretion of estrogens in women and in men androgens; luteinizing stimulates the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. Neurohypophysis stimulates the following hormones: oxytocin stimulates the contraction of muscle cells of the uterus in childbirth. Antidiuretic hormone increases the reabsorption of water in the kidney, so decreases the volume of urine. Pineal gland. It is located in the third ventricle and midline of the brain. It produces melatonin, a hormone involved in the development of secondary sexual characters. It is stimulated in the dark, so it regulates the sleep-wake cycle. Thyroid gland. It is located in the front of the neck. Its hormones are T4 and T3. It is responsible for the metabolism of each cell of the body. An important component in the synthesis of thyroid hormone is iodine. Other important glands are parathyroid gland, controls calcium levels in the body and is located behind the thyroid gland. Kidney glands, located in the upper part of the kidney. They produce essential hormones for life like cortisol that helps to respond to the stress. Diseases. Hypothyroidism. Not enough thyroid hormone is produced, and there is weight gain. When it is advanced, it is called myxedema and is life-threatening. Diabetes mellitus. It is a disease in which blood sugar levels rise or fall. There are two types. Type 1, in which pancreatic islets do not secrete insulin, and type 2, caused by a deficit of insulin secretion or resistance to this. Dwarfism. Low amounts of growth hormone are produced from birth. The affected person will be short. Giantism. When there is excessive production of hormone growth during childhood, abnormal growth will be noted. Preventive measures in order to avoid risk factors are to have a healthy diet, to be aware of family history, to do exercise, to reduce stress, and to sleep the necessary hours. Reproductive system. The reproductive system, both female and male, combined with the endocrine system, is responsible for producing the gametes or sex cells. In case of women, these cells are eggs or ovules, and for men, these cells are sperms. Their function is give rise to a new being. Female reproductive system. Its function is to conceive, feed, sustain the developing fetus, and offer offspring. It's made of external and internal genital organs. Let's talk about the function of the female organs. Ovaries are paired organs with the size of an almond. They are responsible for the production of female gametes. Ovaries are located in the pelvic cavity, one each side of the uterus. Fallopian tubes are pairs in tubular organs. One end is attached to the uterus and the other with the ovary. Its function is to catch the newly ovulated oocyte. During its passage through the oviduct, the oocyte can be fertilized if there is the presence of sperm. At this time, it is called ovule. Uterus. Its function are the implantation of the fertilized ovum, allowing pregnancy and childbirth. Its inner layer is known as endometrium, and the inferior part is known as cervix, which produces a secretion called cervical mucus. Vagina is a tubular organ about 10 centimeters long. Its functions are to act as an outlet for the menstrual flow. It is the receptacle of the penis during intercourse and constitutes the birth canal. Continuing with the next structure, vulva includes the external genitalia pubic, labia majora, labia minora, and vestibule. Menstrual cycle. It lasts on average 28 days and has the next stages. Menstrual phase. The levels of estrogen and progesterone diminish. The endometrium is detached and bleeding occurs. It lasts from 1 to 5 days. Pre-ovulatory phase is the phase where an ovary will complete its maturation and will be ready for the oocytes to be ovulated. Meanwhile, the uterus is preparing for the implantation. Continuing with the cycle, ovulation happens in the middle of the cycle. The luteinizing hormone promotes the rupture of the mature ovarian follicle and releases the oocyte. Post-ovulatory phase. The cells that comprise it are organized, giving origin to the corpus luteum and begin to produce progesterone and estrogen. If there is not pregnancy, menstruation occurs. Male reproductive system. Let's talk about its organs. Testicles, located in the scrotal bags that keep them out of the abdominal cavity. This allows the sperm develop. Also, here testosterone is produced. Epididymis produce the necessary substances for sperm maturation. Vas deferens, its function is to contract and impulse the sperms from the epididymis to the ejaculatory duct and urethra. Prostate, its secretion protects the sperms. Its size increases with the age. Penis is the copulatory organ. It has the urethra, which is the common route for urine and ejaculation. It's formed by erectile tissue that fills with blood during sexual arousal. Sexually transmitted infections. Gonorrhea, caused by the Neisseria gonorrhoeae bacterium. It is highly contagious because it can be transmitted by oral, vaginal, or anal intercourse. Even newborn can be infected during childbirth. Syphilis is caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum. It's known as chancre. It disappears in maximum 5 weeks, but 24 weeks later, fever, joint and muscle pain, and rashes appear. This because the pathogen spreads throughout the body. Genital herpes, caused by a virus of type 2, produces painful blisters on the penis and vulva. The virus is still present in the body throughout the life. This is why blisters can occur regularly. AIDS is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, which remains throughout the life in the body. Person infected does not have any symptom. Its contagion occurs through sexual exposure to semen or vaginal fluids of infected people, and mothers transmit to their kids during childbirth. But remember, the virus is not spread by kissing or hugging an infected person. Methods for birth control. Physical methods. Barrier, example, condom. The safety of these methods is variable and depends to a large or extent on their correct use and care to see that they do not show breakage of perforations. They must not be exposure to heat, and you have to take in account their expiration date. IUD are objects introduced into the uterus, can be used for up to 10 years, and a doctor must place it. Surgical sterilization in men is called vasectomy, consists of ligating and cutting the vas deferens of each testicle. In women, consists of the ligature and section of both oviducts. Chemical methods. Hormonal methods like pills, injection, or patch. These methods use hormones that modify the development of the ovarian follicle and inhibit the ovulation. Spermicides are drugs that kill sperm. Partial abstinence. Rhythm method. It is required that women always have a regular menstrual cycles, since sexual relations should be avoided 3 days before ovulation, the day of ovulation, and 3 days after. Basal temperature method. During ovulation, the body temperature increases. It is not a suitable method because if you have sex before ovulation, pregnancy is very likely. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped you to study stage 4. And remember to keep an eye on your activities by Nexus and Microsoft Teams.